In 2015, it was reported by the National Institution for Mental Health that 6.3 million teenagers suffer with an anxiety disorder. This number is astonishing. So many people around the world, maybe yourself or maybe a friend or a family member, suffer with this disorder. It's a very serious thing that needs to be talked about more. I chose this topic because myself, I struggle with anxiety and it affects how I perform in the classroom. Anxiety in the classroom can happen for many different reasons and it shows itself in many different forms. It's important that we know what causes it, what teachers can do, what parents can do, and what the person with the anxiety disorder can do to help solve this problem. There is not one reason anxiety happens. It's different for each person, and some situations, like a classroom, can cause anxiety, or maybe it can start at home. There are many things that cause this in a classroom, and it'll be different for each student. There are always many signs and symptoms that you can look out with that are associated with this anxiety disorder. It can be social stress, trying to fit in with classmates. It can be teachers. Certain teachers may just trigger it. Overscheduling, maybe there's too many classes and then you go straight to sports practices and you just have too much going on in your life. It can be a lack of sleep, you're staying up too late, maybe it's because you're stressing, maybe you just enjoy staying up late, but that can cause severe anxiety in the classroom. If your work's too hard, that can cause anxiety because you're afraid of failure, or it's too easy. Even if it's too easy, that causes anxiety in some children. And then tests and homework also play a part in this anxiety in the classroom. Anxiety can start anywhere. It can start in the classroom or at home. It can be a range of things that I just went over, but it's important that parents notice this and also teachers do. Many symptoms can pop up because of anxiety, but it can be anything. The symptoms can be anything from physical symptoms, like you physically get sick, or it can be kind of mental. You're always in your head, you're always stressing, which can eventually lead to physically getting sick, getting headaches, passing out. So they're all things that we need to look at. Anxiety symptoms and feelings can get bad and it can affect your life very negatively. Without treatment or support, anxiety can affect how you perform in school, which is not a good thing at all, especially if you want to end up going to a university or getting a job like a lawyer, a doctor, or even a teacher. Anxiety can cause great destruction, leading to the student and affect. Anxiety can cause great distraction, and that leads to how a student can study for a test and how their memory works. It affects, like I said, the working memory, the thought process, because when a teacher's teaching, you can't focus on what she's saying, so you don't develop the skills that you need to have this thought process, and you can't develop your memory because you weren't paying attention because your anxiety was taking over. If a teacher and parent is diligent about looking for signs of anxiety in their student, then they can help them manage it and get the help they need, which is very important for success. Helping a child deal with anxiety starts at the home. You can make practical changes in your child's life, like their sleep schedule, and maybe it's not just telling them to go to sleep, but taking their electronics or TV out of their room so they can get good, peaceful, uninterrupted sleep. You limit their screen time, which can help, and look at their scheduling. If there's too much going on in your child's life, that could be a reason for anxiety, and it eventually will affect how they do in the classroom, so maybe cutting back on the activities your child is performing in. But just because it starts at the home helping with anxiety doesn't mean it ends there. It's important that teachers notice anxiety in students and know how to effectively help those students. So, for example, if you know a student suffers with anxiety, you can make a special learning plan for them. It doesn't have to be anything drastic, but if you notice they're getting nervous, don't call on them just because they haven't participated, because that actually makes anxiety much worse. Also, one thing that helps anxiety is moving around. So, maybe every 30 minutes or hour, you get your class to get up and have a stretch break, or if they're younger, a dance party. I don't know, just something to get moving and keep your students active, because that actually helps with anxiety a lot. It is very important we pay attention to these signs and symptoms of anxiety while in the classroom, because if it goes undiagnosed, it can affect the student greatly for the rest of their life. If they don't do well in high school, they won't get into a good college, and if they have deep desires and don't get into this college, it can be hard for them to become a surgeon, a doctor, or a lawyer. But not only that, if it goes undiagnosed, this child will maybe forever deal with this anxiety and think it's just something wrong with them. And that's also another reason it's very important not to talk bad about anxiety and act like it's the worst thing ever, but give either your child or this student practical ways to help them conquer their anxiety or lessen it. This is a disorder that affects millions of young people around the world, but together we can help it become more manageable so teens and even young children don't suffer alone. Thank y'all.